Hey, folks, as you come in, there's handouts back there, right there on the top of that ledge for our lecture today. Hi. I think I'm too loud, Peter. Just a little bit.
Stumpy stand we used to use for that. So I'm just going to mount this on that and set it to the side.
Oh, super.
I just
Okay.
have to have Matt bring it over for when we do the baptism.
Sounds
it
good.
Should reach and it should be what they
Peter, can you turn that down, please? I don't know why it's so loud. Folks, as you come in, we're running just a little bit late. Sorry. There's handouts back there on the ledge. If you could grab those. You'll see them right there on the ledge of the sound booth. Says arguments from pro-choice advocates, something like that. Answering pro-choice, pro-abortion arguments. Here's how I'm going to start. I'm going to go ahead and get us launched into the topic with a video that's going to answer one of the questions on a call-in program from one of my favorite pro-life apologists. You can find these videos, or I think this one's not a video. I mean, it's a video, but it's basically a recording of this call-in show. And today we're going to try to deal with 5 pro-abortion arguments, pro-choice arguments. Basically, they're answers to or they're off-topic comments. Remember we talked about being on-topic or off-topic? On-topic being the life of the unborn. Who are the unborn? So these are some side topics. So what I'm going to ask is, Peter, if you could cue up that first video. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up. But you're going to notice, I think this is our third argument that he's going to address on this one. Okay, hold on. If you could pause it just a second, Peter. This is the one that's dealing with, if you'll look at your handout, the single issue objection. So one of the things that happens when we're speaking to pro-choice advocates, whether they are, what we would consider hardcore advocates or people who are easily persuadable, one of the things they'll throw at you is, why aren't you holistically pro-life? In other words, why aren't you pro-life in every aspect? Why don't you care about global warming? Why don't you care about making sure that adoption is available in every country where abortion is available? Why aren't you concerned about poverty? Now, all of these are important issues, yes? But one of the things that it does is it gets you off topic. So in other words, why are you an advocate for life if you aren't also an advocate for all sorts of preservation of life? That's how the argument goes. And so this is addressed in this call-in program, and Trent Horn is going to answer the question. But before we listen to it, I'm going to lead us in prayer. And maybe someone could just close those doors for us back there. Thank you, Jason. All right, let's pray. Lord, thank you for our class time. Thank you for the apologists that we're able to learn from so that we can better speak towards what we believe. And we ask that you would sharpen us today as we consider some of the more popular arguments over this week and next. And we ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, listen to this. I'm going to get myself set up here while we listen to it.
Happy to hear witness your question, Trent. So you're wondering, the question for me in particular, how many children have I adopted? And or fostered to alleviate the problem in society with all these children that are in foster care and in need of adoption. Well, I haven't adopted any, but I don't see how it's relevant at all to the question of whether it's okay to kill a human being in the womb through abortion. So let's just assume I'm a very, very bad person, that I don't like children. Actually, if anyone knows me, I very much like children. Ever since having children, I see the world a lot more from their perspective. I don't find they like you that much. You make your own. Maybe. Sorry. Or children at heart, like my co-host, I know it. Yes. I like you, Trent. So I go play with your blocks in the morning. All right. Okay. So let's say I don't like children, or I hate children, or I'm mean to children. How does that fact that, let's say I'm a really bad person, Jimmy. Let's say I, Trent Horn, am a terrible, terrible person. How does that change the fact that abortion unjustly ends the life of a human being? How would me being a selfish, bad person who's never adopted anyone, how does that change the fact that abortion unjustly takes the life of a human being before they're born? How does that change it? Well, it doesn't change it. It's just that you're going to help with the situation that the problem is with all these children that are in need of foster care or adoption. Well, Jimmy, how about all these kids that are in foster care? Why don't we just kill them? No, that would be murder because they're already born. They already came out of the womb. Why is being a human being? Okay, well, let me ask you another question then. Why is it okay to kill a human being before he is born, but not after he's born? Because that's a woman's right to choose. I don't think anybody has the right to choose to tell a woman what she can do with her body. Why? That's her body. I'll give you an example. God created everybody not in a lab. He didn't get in a lab. So when you go to a doctor, they push these pills and pills. When the answer is in nature. So there are certain plants that are illegal that you're not allowed to take, and it comes from nature. All right. So when it's the same, it's almost the equivalent to a man telling or the government telling a woman what she can and cannot do with her body. I think that's very dangerous. Is an unborn baby a literal part of a woman's body, or is the baby, do they have their own body?
real quickly, did you notice what Trent did on that? Our first topic, I think, we talked about either being on topic or what? So the question was, have you been adopting? Have you been fostering? Which are great things, yes? But the implication was, why are you a pro-life advocate when you are not adopting and not a foster parent, right? Is that on topic or off topic? Okay, I was hoping for some more conviction. It was off topic, yes. Did you notice how he brought it back to what? On topic. So what Trent was able to accomplish, which he's really good, you could tell, he was able to bring the conversation from off topic back to on topic, which is there's one primary on topic that we want to get back to, and it's answering the question, what are the unborn, or who are the unborn? Okay? So just talk about what he did in that short little podcast or call-in. How did he bring it back to topic? What did he do? Do you remember? Shannon? So he kept redefining terms. Absolutely he did. He kept asking Jimmy questions, which was quite entertaining, wasn't it? Well, how many brains? One. No, two. Yeah, that was funny. Ed? Yeah, if you didn't hear that, Ed said he asked, what does that have to do with the argument? So he basically said, okay, before I even answer your question, I'm not even going to answer your question. He did say something about loving children, but he didn't go down that path. I mean, you could have tried to defend, well, my wife and I have tried to get approved to be foster parents, and you're right, this is a great cause, and we appreciate, I mean, he could have spent a while on that, but he deflected. Good. Rick pointed out that he took himself out of the argument. He neutralized the argument, and this is not about me. And the caller was trying to make it about him. Somewhat of an ad hominem question. Rather than an ad hominem attack, it was basically, it's a gotcha moment. So if you aren't actively in foster care and actively adopting, then you really have no platform to speak about life. Elizabeth? Yep. Very good point. So this is not just about adoption or being a foster parent. It's this idea of you got to have some virtue in the bank before you can speak about any other moral, ethical issue. Absolutely. Very observant. So we do live in that kind of environment today, right? So you basically have a virtue bank, and people virtue signal or they virtue talk. And so if you have enough in your bank, then you're able to speak about an issue. And if you don't, you can't, right? Lest I forget, Amanda brought this to my attention. I think it's tomorrow that there's going to be a vote in the Pennsylvania House on what's being called, I don't think this is what they call it. I think what we're calling it is abortion to birth bill that they're trying to pass in the House in Pennsylvania. You can go on the Pennsylvania Family Institute website, which there are some handouts at the table for Chester County Women's Services that tell you about some of these amendments that are being voted on. You can actually sign a petition, sign your support against the bill. I guess that's the way. Or you're being against the bill, you can sign on to that. So just encourage you. I think that's happening tomorrow. Something to pray about, something to get involved in. I didn't want to miss that. Anything else on that conversation that Trent pointed out? Did you notice how he, it may have seemed a little crass, but he went to, okay, once he decided that he would say she has two brains, he went for another item of the anatomy, that if this woman was expecting a male child, it was a gotcha moment, and I thought it was brilliant. So at that moment, he was able to say, one. Did you notice that? I just thought that was humorous and brilliant all at the same time. Anything else that you noticed? We're going to listen to another one in just a few moments. You can actually find all of these online. You're right, he did. I didn't notice that either. Yep. What were some of the terms he asked for definition for? Pregnancy, termination. What is an abortion? What is a fetus? Yeah. Good. Anything else that stuck out to you? You feel attacked. Yeah. You know, one of the advantages, too, of having these available is to listen to someone who's really good at it, really smart, and unemotive, to learn from it. I mean, these are the skills we're trying to learn. Yes? Yeah, we'll have to be careful there, because that's going to be one of the arguments that we're going to deal with a little bit later, that on the pro-life side, sometimes we'll hear, if you're not a woman, you can't have an opinion about this. So yeah, we have to be careful on that. I thought more to the point was to call in and be on a live question and answer radio program like that, and to be as unprepared as Jimmy was. That was what I felt for. I was like, man, you're getting roasted, man. So I had a little compassion for Jimmy, just a little. All right, hey, let's pull out our handout. We're going to watch another one, or listen to another one of these in just a moment. And so the goal this week and next is to deal with some of these more popular arguments. Here's the first one: the coat hanger objection. The coat hanger objection. Women will die from illegal abortions. And again, this is a very crass way of putting it, but this is kind of the argument. And the argument is, if we overturn Roe v. Wade, all of these illegal back alley coat hanger abortions are going to take place, and then the life of all of these mothers who are women who are going to have abortions illegally are going to be at risk. So that's the point. Let's imagine you're talking to someone and they make this statement: if we overturn Roe v. Wade, which I hope you're praying will happen this June, but let's imagine that happens. The argument is, now these women who want abortion, they're going to seek them illegally. It's going to happen, and because the law has been overturned, or the ruling has been overturned, we're going to have so many women dying or being infected. There's going to be all kinds of horrible things that happen. They're going to go back to these back alley abortions. So therefore, we shouldn't overturn Roe v. Wade. What do you immediately see with that argument? Okay, hypocrisy, and why? Did you hear that? We're more interested in the person who's deciding to end a life than we are the life that's ending. That's what you said. So, do you remember this? We called it begging the question. Now, sometimes we're using that phrase when it's not accurate today. You'll hear people on news stations talk about begging the question. Begging the question actually means that you assume something to be true, or you assume your argument's true by the question that you ask. So what is assumed, and I've given you some of these points so you can just jot some notes on. What's the assumption with this argument that women will die from illegal abortions if Roe v. Wade is overturned? What is assumed in that question? True. You're right. They could die from a legal abortion just as well. There's something assumed about this, though. And it comes back to the important point, the topic, the on topic that we're trying to argue for. What is it? Sure. Yeah, that assumption's there. The assumption I'm after is one that you've already mentioned. Go ahead. Correct. So that's more on topic. So what we're saying here is to even bring this argument up is to assume that there's not a human life that's ending at every abortion. Okay? So and Bill points out that we've got 50% of them are going to be female babies that are being killed. So what's assumed here by the question is, and that's why we want to bring it back on topic, is that, okay, so we're going to get off topic now and talk about those women who are now going to go seek illegal abortions, perhaps will die because of it. So now we're not going to talk about any more of the topic, the on topic, which is what? Who are the unborn? Secondly, what is silly to claim? Why is it silly to claim that the law can't stop abortions? What's silly about that argument? So basically embedded in this is women will die from illegal abortions. So if we make a law about abortions as illegal, that's somehow going to, that can't stop abortion. So they're basically saying that this is going to happen, and now it's going to happen illegally, so therefore don't have a law that outlaws abortion. What's silly about that line of reasoning? Can you try to dip into it for a moment? What do you think? Yes. So if people are going to murder anyway, and then they're going to murder illegally, so let's not have any laws against homicide. Okay, so this is kind of low-lying fruit, but these are arguments that are used. So just think about some of them. You don't have to get too heady on them. Just think about the analogy. Remember when we're discussing this, bringing in an analogy is really helpful, and that's what Trent did in that little conversation. What's wrong with saying women will be forced to get illegal abortions? How is this claim demeaning to women? It takes away their what? Their agency. A little more. I see. So either way, she's still making a decision. Got it. Somebody else want to add something to that? Yes, Shannon? Correct. And Matt brought up the analogy. You're bringing up the analogy. I want to encourage you again. Think through the various comparisons you could bring to this conversation. So a woman is no more forced into back alley abortions because it's outlawed than a young man. Let's say a young man is forced to rob a bank because the state won't put him on welfare. Okay? So we could use an analogy like that and say, okay, as forced as a woman is going to be to have an illegal abortion, the same thing would be true about a person who can't qualify for welfare. Now he has no choice except to what? Rob a bank. How well does the claim of 5,000 to 10,000 deaths a year square with statistical data? I haven't even given you the statistic, but the statistic is often repeated that if Roe v. Wade were overturned, we're going to have 5,000 to 10,000 deaths by women who are getting illegal abortions in our country. What do you think about that stat? I mean, anybody can say anything they want to say with stats, but if you do a little Google search, you'll find that those stats are incredibly inflated. Do you realize that even when abortion was illegal in this country, the people who were performing abortions in many cases were still professionals? They actually knew what they were doing. So this idea that if it were overturned, now all of a sudden they're going to be, and again, to be crass, using coat hangers in back alleys to have abortions is to imagine that when it was illegal, and now if it were illegal again, that the place they would seek abortions would be from people who are not qualified to give an abortion, and that the woman's health is going to be at stake immediately. That's not true. In fact, the statistics are more like even before 1973's Roe v. Wade decision, somewhere between 100 and 150 women were dying from illegal abortions because of complications due to the abortion. That was prior to 1973. So when you hear these statistics, they sound like, okay, that's paralyzing. Well, yeah, you have a point there. We're going to have all these people, all these women that are dying because they're going to seek illegal abortions. Well, the truth of the matter is, even before Roe v. Wade, those that were seeking abortions illegally, we're talking about stats somewhere between 150 and 500, which there's a large span there. But these are not huge statistics. What was his name? Do you remember? I want to look that up. What was the last name again? Thanks, Diane. I want to look that up myself. What about this last thing? And some of you have already mentioned this. These are all conversation pieces. I hope you see what we're doing here. We're just giving you kind of some conversation pieces. You don't have to use all of these when you're dealing with an argument. In fact, Trent Horn kind of zeroed in and got it back on topic. But what if Roe v. Wade were overturned? What should be the true response to illegal abortions? I want you to think in terms of jurisprudence in our country. We are a country of laws. When something is made illegal, now again, we could speak quite a bit here on what happened in 1973, whether our courts should be rewriting laws rather than adjudicating the Constitution, which they're sworn to do. But that's a little beyond the scope of this question. But what should be the response to citizens in any country that is ruled by law when something is deemed illegal? What should be the true response? So if someone's asking you or saying to you that if this happens, this is going to be the result, if we were just talking to them in a country of laws and dealing with jurisprudence, what should be the true response to something that's made illegal? Punishment? Consequences if you disobey the law? Back to what Matt said. So if there were a moment where murder, and it was overturned by the Supreme Court that murder was no longer illegal, or let's say that somebody was talking about something like murder or like arson or like petty theft, all of a sudden they're saying, because this is a law, I'm going to now look to commit it. What would we say to them? You need to submit to the law, and if you don't, there should be what? Consequences, right? So this is a basic ethics principle that we're talking about here, that when something is made illegal or legal, you should submit to it as a citizen, rather than saying, okay, there are going to be ramifications or there are practical ramifications, so therefore it doesn't need to be abided by. Let me move to the second one, because this one I've heard more than I actually had the first one. And this is the tolerance objection. You shouldn't force your views. And sometimes this is your religious views on others. And this all comes from relativism. And we've already defined this, but just to give you another definition or another opportunity to write it down, here's what relativism is. And in a postmodern society, you hear this all the time in one way or another. No objective moral standards. So, no objective moral standards, and basically what happens when you have no objective moral standards, you end up doing three things. If you want to jot these down, this happens all the time. Relativism always ends when self-refuting arguments, because at some point, your relativism is going to be intolerant. If you've been in a conversation with somebody who says that you're intolerant, what they're basically saying is your opinion, because it's contrary to mine, is not tolerant, and therefore I will not what? Tolerate it. Okay? So intolerance or relativism always becomes self-refuting. Secondly, relativism can never say anything's wrong if it's going to be logically consistent. So if I'm a relativist, I can never say anything is what? Wrong if I'm going to be logically consistent. And you notice Trent did a little of that, and I think he's going to do it in this other one that we're going to listen to in just a second. What you do is, in a conversation, is you explore a little bit about their ethics. I mean, all of us have a line about that's wrong. The traditional or the popular argument is you can be a relativist until somebody steals something from you. Okay? I'm a relativist until you take something from me or hurt somebody I care about. And all of a sudden, I have a moral standard. The third thing about relativism is not only is it self-refuting and relativism can't say anything's wrong, but it's impossible to live consistently as a relativist. No one lives their life this way. And again, it's connected to the second one, but I can't live my life as a consistent relativist because there's always going to be some absolutes that I insist upon, right? Let's listen to this one. Peter, can you put that second one on for us real quickly? I want you to see how Trent answers this relativist question, and you can take some notes on this one as well if you want to. Hey, Peter. Peter, could you, I'm sorry, this is not the one that I wanted us to watch. It's a good one, but the one, there's one that you'll scroll down on and it says you're pushing your personal views. Do you see that one? It's a little shorter. You don't? Let me just see. I have mine pulled up here real quickly. That's the one I was hoping we could watch. Hold on just a second. Do not impose your views. It's right below do not impose your religious views. If you scroll those 12 videos. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Thank you, Peter. He did get around the barn a little bit on that one, but beyond our topic. But did you notice how he referred back to an illustration that he used about the boat? He gave us a little background where we could hear about the boat. But this is actually a different argument that's connected with it. And the idea is that why should we expect a mother to go through all of these trials of pregnancy and to have to loan her body to someone else? Shouldn't she have the choice to say, I would rather not do that? So it does come back to the relativism argument somewhat. So he started there and he kind of took a turn. Again, I want to see what you thought about his ability to converse in the apologetic side, because that's what we're trying to learn. Did you notice what he did in that? Can you break it down? He didn't deal directly with the relativism, but he did deal with this idea of the abortion and my favorite flavor of donuts. Yes. If you had a medical procedure that killed 100% of children, would you make that legal? Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, even he seemed to agree with if you had 20% of children, this is a donut that all adults love. I thought that was a cool little analogy there. So he took his illustration of the donuts and he turned it on him, right? So let's use that illustration that you gave me and let's actually put it with the facts. So how would you bring this back? Remember, our main argument is it's wrong to intentionally kill an innocent human being. Abortion intentionally kills an innocent human being, therefore it's wrong. So taking an illustration that is thrown at you and bringing it back to the whole argument is what he did. And he did it a clever way. Tim. That's right. Good point. Yeah, exactly. So he just said, hey, let's continue this argument all the way to its logical conclusion, right? Very helpful. Yeah, Shannon. Mhm. Right? Mhm. Good. I want to finish with this. We've got to end just a little early today because we got a lot in the second service. This one was what he dealt with in that first little soundbite. The single issue objection. Pro-lifers should broaden their focus. So basically, it's the attack. He said that if you're not involved in adoption and foster care, then you're really not pro-life. I've heard this expanded to include if you're not involved in occupational safety concerns, if you're not involved in AIDS help and research and poverty and dealing with capital punishment and all of these different causes, then you really are not pro-life, okay? So what they're saying is if you're so narrow and concerned about the abortion issue and you're not as equally concerned about every other social ill, then you need to just shut your mouth. And it's a little bit of what Elizabeth said, when you have a virtue bank, and so if your virtue bank about every cause is not like fully funded, then you can't speak about any other virtue or lack of it thereof. So do you see how that argument kind of breaks down? Maybe you could even say it like this. It would be as illogical, let's use an analogy, for someone to say, okay, let's say that you are raising money for cancer awareness or cancer research. Let's imagine some of us have participated in 5Ks or half marathons, and the primary focus of the cause or the race was for cancer research, right? We used to have one for breast cancer research in New Hampshire every year. Okay, so you could participate, you could build a team. It's like saying, okay, you can't be concerned about cancer research and trying to find a cure for cancer if you're not equally concerned about diabetes. That's the logic of this. So basically, the undercut is if we're not concerned about every issue, we can't be concerned about what? One issue. And that's wrong to request, to say you have to broaden your focus. We're going to have to end there, guys. And we'll pick up this next week. I've got 3 other arguments we're going to deal with, hopefully, next week. But we do need to end early, I've been told, because I think the first service went a little long. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you next week, God willing. Don't forget to visit the PA Family Institute website if you have time.